Well, one thing I can say is that I'm super excited to read the comment section of this video. Yeah. The Matrix Resurrections is directed by Lana Wachowski, featuring Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne and Yahya Abdul-Mateen. To find out if his reality is a physical or mental construct, Mr. Anderson will have to choose to follow the White Rabbit once more. If he's learned anything, it's that choice, while an illusion, is still the only way out of or into the Matrix. Neo already knows what he has to do, but what he doesn't yet know is that the Matrix is stronger, more secure, and far more dangerous than ever before. Now guys, before we give you my review of The Matrix Resurrections, I want to see what you guys have to say about it down in the comment section below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Have you had a chance to see it yet? Please comment down below. Let me know. Now, it's common knowledge on the channel that I'm not a massive fan of the Matrix movies. While I don't enjoy them, I find them completely harmless, turn your brain off enjoyment. I will admit, I can sit down and watch the first movie and Reloaded, but not whatever the other third film was. What was it? Revolutions or Retribution or some fucking shit? But at the same time, I find them really fucking demeaning. I find them pretentious as all batshit. And I also find them absolutely lifeless and joyless in regards to emotional connection with anything in regards to the story and the characters. I went into The Matrix Resurrections really wanting to enjoy this film. I saw the trailers and it actually looked okay. I actually was kind of excited. As someone who's not a fan of the trilogy prior, I will admit I was actually kind of excited for Resurrections, and I held out hope. With Lana Wachowski once again returning to the directing chair to be able to helm this series 18 years later, that gave me hope. One of the original directors of the original trilogy, with Keanu and Carrie-Anne Moss returning and Yahya Abdul-Mateen playing a younger Morpheus, this seemed like a slam dunk of a film. But unfortunately it's not. The Matrix Resurrections might very well be my least favorite of the series, and that's saying something considering what the third film was. I will give credit where credit is due. Seeing these characters back on the screen, although I'm not a fan of these movies, was really nice to see. And seeing this movie in IMAX was the best way to watch this movie. If you are going to see this movie, due to the grand scale, the visual style, and scope of it alone, you do need to see this movie on the big screen. I will say that the supporting cast of this movie was actually kind of amazing. Where I had issues with the original three movies where Morpheus, Neo, and also Trinity lacked any emotion whatsoever, what is it, Agent Smith, played by Hugo Weaving, him I can understand because of what Agent Smith and who Agent Smith is. But at the same time, in this movie, the side characters were a breath of fresh air in regards to bringing a lot of emotion and a lot of vibrance to the film. I actually found them stealing the scene and the movie whenever they were on screen, even if Keanu, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Yahya Abdul-Mateen were on screen. As a matter of fact, I actually think Yahya Abdul-Mateen is actually a better Morpheus for the reason that he does emote and have more emotion than Lawrence Fishburne did. Wait, was it Lawrence Fishburne? Yes, it was Lawrence Fishburne. And I will say what they do with Morpheus for the most part, especially from the opening scene alone, is really amazing. And what they do with the older Morpheus, which is explored why he's younger, I actually kind of enjoyed. But there are moments in the movie where Morpheus sort of looks like a little beaded sort of character with like these projections, sort of metallic beads creating him outside the Matrix in, you know, Zion or Io as the new Matrix sort of civilization for the people is called. You know, I thought he looked like a tutorial character in a video game. That's actually something that was pointed out to me by my buddy John Burns. Whenever he would like fucking dissipate and shrink down to go down a drain pipe and sort of disappear, he kind of just looked like a, you know, a video game tutorial character who'd tell you how to use the controls. But at the same time, the VFX for the most part, even in those scenes, while not great, you can see where the budget went for this film, and it does look very beautiful. For the most part, the VFX are nice and pretty. I also think the world inside the Matrix and outside of the Matrix, for the most part, is more colorful than the previous films. It got rid of that really ugly green tint, giving it more light and vibrant colors. But at the same time, the moment that they leave the Matrix and go into Zion, it goes back to its really dull, flat grey from the original films, and that's where the movie lost a lot of its visual appeal and style. I also found that Carrie-Anne Moss and, you know, Keanu Reeves kind of got sidelined in this movie, not in regards to their appearances, but their portrayals and their performances. Because just like in the original three movies, Keanu and Carrie both have no emotion and they lack any vibrance together and any chemistry. I've never felt throughout this franchise that Trinity and Neo had any fucking chemistry throughout at all. They had none. They never played off of each other well, they never really connected together and everything, and even while the first movie has some really fun action sequences, I never gave a shit about the characters or the story. It was just mindless entertainment if I'm going to watch it, but I can't because that first movie is like an hour and 30 minutes of nothing, to then the rest of like the last act or half of the film is just non-stop action. In this movie though, Neo and Trinity have no emotion, no chemistry once again. The shit that they do in regards to why they're not in the Matrix, how they both survived at the end of Retribution. Is it Revelations or Retribution? Like, I felt was really forced and hammed in, and also incredibly confusing. The new ideas provided for the Matrix this time with this new version of the AI system with the Matrix, with characters being brought in that haven't been introduced before, but a new character is played by, Neil Patrick Harris and this other fucking bloke. Not gonna spoil who that other bloke is. What's the actor's name? Jonathan Groff, that's him. If you haven't checked IMDb, if you haven't checked Google or anything, stay away, because you don't want to know who he really is. I understand why they did it, and for the most part it works, but when you remember the previous 3 movies and who that character is meant to be, you kind of go, oh, so you're nowhere near as good. But I think for the most part he does a fine job. I just think this whole thing regarding the Matrix here, the new rules of the world and the lore building and everything is just way too confusing. Throughout the movie, I was sort of sitting there thinking in my head, taking in all the information, because the Matrix is very much so a blink or stop paying attention and you miss it type of experience. All of them are, while they over-explain certain things and are very pretentious. In this movie though, it just doesn't make sense, and it hurt my fucking brain trying to think of how all of this bloody worked, even when it was being explained more and more, but with little development and exploration to be provided either to give us answers. I understand that they might not give us everything right away, especially if they want to do a 5th movie, but you gotta have something there, man, and I found this blatantly confusing. Also, for an action movie like this to have such a lack of action, and to just be a bunch of walking around and talking for the most part, made this movie to be an absolute fucking snooze. I can't preface it enough. I almost fell asleep in this movie at points, and it was very, very boring. Nothing happens for a good portion of the movie, and when the action does happen, although I don't like those 3 movies, which I'll keep stating, I always appreciated the action scenes with how wide the angles were and the cinematography and scope of the action set pieces. How you can always see what's going on with big wide shots and everything, taking in not just the characters and their physical fighting, but the location and it being a character on its own. In this, the train fight, they didn't know, it seems, how to shoot an action sequence in close corridors. So I thought it would just be that for that scene that it was just shaky, choppy, very close-up action sequences. But it kind of spans throughout the entire movie. The only action scene that I felt like a Matrix action scene was the opening scene. It's all filmed in these really weird close-up shots that is very choppy, and at one fight scene around about halfway through the movie, I was watching it and I was kind of just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just counting the cuts. And it's not like Resident Evil the final chapter levels of bad, but it's still not good and is very messy in my opinion. And now I'm just going to talk about what is probably my biggest issue with the movie, and that is the fact that the entire first half of this movie and a little bit of the second half is way too fucking meta. It feels like a massive Control-C and Control-V, a copy and paste of the original movies. It's literally having scenes that happened in the original film, all reloaded, all Revelations, all come into play and are just completely redone. But in this way, and I understand they want to do new ideas while being something familiar, and they play on the whole deja vu situation quite a lot, but the big problem with that is when it has that shit happening, it constantly does jump cuts to the previous films, reminding us that happened. If you're going to do that, bring in the deja vu element, but don't remind us of the previous films, which are, in my opinion, although I don't enjoy them, are better. In the end, The Matrix Resurrections was a movie that had some very promising trailers and looked like a ton of fun, but every action set piece is shown and all the boring moments are completely left out. This is a very slow, very monotonous, very boring film that really wasn't that enjoyable. The new ideas provided, while interesting, are very confusing and make little to no sense whatsoever. The main characters lack any emotion or chemistry with each other whatsoever, where the secondary characters, the side co-cast, actually take over the scene and are more enjoyable to to watch and be in the presence of than our main characters that we've been waiting to see back on the big screen since 2003. As someone who doesn't like The Matrix, I was very excited for this movie and actually wanted to see what happened, and had this level of optimism that was just completely debungled by the halfway mark, and by the second half of the movie was even debuckled again, and this just wasn't a very enjoyable experience. The Matrix Resurrections is easily one of the most disappointing movies of the entire year, but I do hope a lot of you enjoy it more than I did, guys. I really do. I do recommend a lot of you go check it out. It is amazing to see that Lana Wachowski is able to make this movie and to make her vision. Love that. Fucking love that. Absolutely brilliant. I just didn't like it, unfortunately, but I do hope that a lot of Matrix fans out there, and I hope a lot of other people, general audience members, do go see this movie, that they do go support it, and they enjoy it more than I did. But with all that said, guys, I may not have enjoyed The Matrix Resurrections, but I hope you do. But either way, I'm going to give The Matrix Resurrections a C-. Guys, what do you think of The Matrix Resurrections? I want to see what you guys have to say down in the comment section below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or are you somewhere right in the middle? Please comment down below. Let me know. Do be sure to follow my social medias at Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and Twitch to watch my live streams and keep updated with the content coming to the channel. Do be sure to also click the subscribe button and the bell to get notified when new videos are up every single week. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.